As a graphic designer, one of the main objectives of every design project is to communicate a message to its target audience. While doing this, please take note, always keep your design simple. Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. I remain your host, Agu Joseph. In this video, I'll be walking you through on how I was able to achieve this laundry flyer design in Adobe Photoshop. Please, if you are new to this channel, this is a graphic design channel. I basically share my knowledge on graphic design with you all on this particular platform. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to smash the subscribe button and turn on the post notification to get post notification whenever I upload new content. And to my returning subscribers, thank you guys for always being here for me. Without further ado, let's dive into this. The first thing we have to do here is to create a canvas on which we'll be designing on, and we are creating a design that will be used across social media platforms as usual. And I would like to set my unit of measurement in pixels, 1080 by 1350. That is the actual portrait frame size for social media. You can choose to set your resolution on 300, or you can choose to set it to maybe 100 depending on the specification of your system. If yours is not of high spec, do well to scale down the resolution so that your Photoshop can work effectively on your system. Okay, so color mode remains on RGB because the design will be used across social media platforms. Here you can choose to call this laundry. Then afterward, leave other settings the way they are and hit the create button. So over here we have the canvas on which you'll be designing on. The first thing I like doing is to bring in the resources I'll be using to work on this design project. Alright, here are the resources I'll be using to work on this design. Do well to check the video description. You find the link to these resources in the video description. The first phase of creating this design has to do with creating of the design background, and the brand color here is blue to be precise. So what will I have to do is to head over to the gradient adjustment over here and select the gradient. Over here I've created a preset initially of what we'll be using on, and here we have this color, and here is the hex code to the color. On this other end as well, here is the hex code to the color as well. Okay, so we'll set this as follows. Click on OK. So over here I'd like to change the style to radial, so I have to scale up the scale a little bit to around something like this. Basically works out for me. Okay, and the next thing I like to do is to drag this shade of my color, that is left click on the gradient and drag and position this to around somewhere here like this. This basically works. Click on the OK button. That is for this. The next thing I like to do is to add a little feel of texture to my background. I don't like my background to be as flat as it actually looks, so I hit Ctrl Shift N on the keyboard to create a new layer, and I would like to rename this layer to the word called noise. Okay, I'd like to add noise textures, change the blending to soft light and enable the 50% gray option. Click on OK afterwards. Right click to convert the layer to a smart object. By doing so, it basically allows the layer allows room for subsequent modification of that layer at any point in time while working on that design project. So head over to filter, noise, and add noise to be precise. Set this on uniform. Monochromatic should be checked. I think this amount of noise is good enough on this canvas. You can see how it actually looks. So we click on OK. This is without the noise and this is with the noise. So afterwards you can select both layers, holding Shift and hit Ctrl G to basically group them. Rename this by double clicking on the name and call this BG, which stands for the background. That is for why creating the background. The next phase has to do with working on the subject image. The first thing I always advise while working on subject image is to right click and convert them to smart object, so that you maintain the image quality whenever you scale it out or scale it up without losing its original look. That is the main aim of converting your layer to a smart object, and it also gives room for subsequent modification at any point in time in the design phase. So I hit Ctrl T, right click on the layer and click on flip horizontal. Okay, scale this down, and I can choose to position this to around somewhere here like this, or scale this up a little bit and position this way like this. Click on the OK. Now we are done scaling the subject image. The next thing I would like to do is to add depth to the subject image. How do I go about that? Simple. I'll head over to the filter here and apply the camera raw filter. So currently we are on the camera raw filter extension. We have to enable the before and the after, control plus to zoom in so that you can see how this look before and afterwards. So I'll start with working with the basics. Please take note that while working with this, it is more of an eyeballing situation. You allow your eyes to guide you. There are no rules governing this, so you use your eyes to know when any of adjustment is too much and make adjustments to them at any point in time. So I'll scale up this as well around this. Okay, it is more of an eyeballing situation as well. I like to take down the highlights because I need to see more of this the shade color and the texture. The shadows as well need more lighting to be brought into the shadow regions as well. Okay, let me see, the white as well need to be scaled down a little. Likewise, the black need to be scaled down as well. Okay, that is in terms of that. Textures can be scaled up. Okay, the textures on the face of the subject can be scaled up properly. Okay, likewise, clarity can be enhanced as well. So it is more of you using your eyes to know what amount to add at every point in time. Okay, so that is in terms of that. I'll scroll down and head over to vibrance. I need to balance the colors, okay, across the whole subject image here. This is okay like this, and heading on, go to saturation and take up the saturation a little bit so that the colors will not be oversaturated. Okay, so this is before and this is after. You can click on OK. So this is how our image is looking like so far. So that is in terms of this. The next thing we'll have to do here is to also enable the stamp image here. I like to enable this. Okay, it's already converted to a smart object. Scale it down a little and position it around somewhere here like this. Okay, so the first thing I want to do here is to change the color of this stamp fill. How do I go about that? I would like to implement the hues and saturation on this and click on the clip marks icon here so that the effect will be solely on this stamp. Take note of that. So while working with this, I would like to change the color of the stamp. That is the first step by playing with what? The hues. So I would like to play with the hues by taking them to around something like this. I need a value of like call it orange. Okay, this works. And what? The saturation is next. So I can take up the saturation level to the top as well, increase the lightness on this particular object or this particular layer. So you can see this is without and this is with the hues and saturation. The next thing we have to do is to apply a curve adjustment to this. Click on the clip mark so that the effect will be solely on this as well. So I would like to create an S curve. Here is this part are called the shadow, the middle part are called the midtones, this end are called the highlights. So I'd like to add more light to this. Okay, so you can see if I turn off this, you can see the before and the after of that. The next thing we have to do is to apply another adjustment called the color balance. Click on the clip marks as well, and afterwards the next thing we have to do is to play with these particular tones. Here we have 3 tones, but I'm working with only the mid tones. Take note of that. So for this we have the CMYK and the RGB over here. Going this way you're adding cyan, going this way you're adding what? Red to that particular layer we are actually working on, which is the stamp. So I would like to take this down this way, taking down the amount of reds. That is what I'm trying to do here. Okay, over here as well I'll need to add the value of green a little. Okay, and for this I would like to add the value of what? Yellow to this. Okay, so this is without and this is with. That is the effect of this. Okay, so that is in terms of that. So afterwards I can select this layer. Okay, holding shift, select the stamp, hit Ctrl G to group them, and I can call this stamp. So that's one of the ways you can basically organize your layer panel so that it won't be overcrowded or congested. Okay, keeping your layer panel neat and organized. So the next phase has to do with start placing in of other informations such as what the brand is all about. So but before then, I have this over here. This is the social media handle. Is already converted to a smart object. I would like to drag and drop it around somewhere here like this. So I'll check, okay, double click on it. You can double click on it and the layer style comes up. Come to fill color, that is color overlay, change the color to white, full white to be precise. Here's the hex code, opacity on 100, click on OK and you're good. So the next thing is for you to place in the handle over here. So moving on next, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to bring in the informations that we'll be using to work on this design project. Okay, so let's move. I pick the text tool and paste in those information here. Okay, here we have about 8 layers for text. Please take note of that. This is like about 8 layers for text. So I'll be walking you through on how to arrange this properly. So I'll start with the services we have here. I'd like to turn off every other layer here, turn them off, and start with this to be precise. So for this to be precise, I would like to change this by selecting the text tool and selecting this particular text out of this. I'll cut it out and check, increase the size of this, okay, and change the fill color using your character panel or using this property panel here. Please, if your character panel is not available here, you can enable it from the windows and click on character. You're good to go. So I'll change this to white. That's for that. Make a duplicate of this, holding Alt, drag down and paste in the other text here. I'll check. Okay, so for this now, I would like to change the scale of this by scaling this down and check. Use the move tool to basically position this like this. Okay, that is in terms of this. You can still choose to zoom in and scale this down furthermore and you're good to go. So that is in terms of this. The next thing we'll have to do is to group them together, but before that I have to enable this layer here. Okay, I'll hit Ctrl T, scale this down, hit Ctrl T, hold Shift, scale this down this way and drag and position this around somewhere here like this. Scale this down properly and make sure this is actually fitted into this. Scale this again and also position it this way into this particular shape. So you keep on scaling till you get the actual scale you are looking for. Okay, so that is in terms of this. I can choose to rotate the angle and adjust the position. So that is in terms of this. Now moving on, I can select this layer here, holding Shift, select this as well. Okay, likewise the laundry service, Ctrl G to group them. Okay, I can call this brand name. Okay, because this doesn't have a logo, I'm just trying to improvise and see what we can create. Okay, so that is in terms of this. So the next thing has to do with the headline text, which is this. Okay, so I have to scale this up. Okay, for this I'm still making use of the same font called Poppins. Please take note of that. I'm making use of the font called Poppins and this will be on extra bold. Okay, please take note of that. Reduce the line spacing between the text on the vertical axis. Change the fill color to white for contrast because the background is dark. It is not expected of you to use a dark value of color, so I have to use colors that can create contrast. Okay, drag down the space between the text a little bit, so that is in terms of that. So I can choose to position this way and we are good to go. Now moving on as well, I like to do something else as well. Ctrl 0 to fit to script. I would like to create a rectangle. So the keyboard shortcut to your rectangle tool is U. Okay, and using Shift U to scale among different shapes here. That is in terms of that. So I'll create a rectangle of something of this nature like this. Okay, and the next thing I would like to do over here, we have the property panel which also comes up. I'll also like to unlink this end. Okay, add a curve on this particular end to around, let me see, to this, and over here scale this to around this as well. Okay, so that is in terms of this. The next thing, I like to enable this particular information here And while enabling this, I also want to play with the scale for this particular information. So I'll drag this, so I'll drag this out, change what the fill color to white first. Okay, change the font to regular, that is under the same poppings, and I'll come over here to create contrast by selecting this particular line of text here and changing this to a value of what, black, like this. Okay, click on OK, change the font the typeface style to, let me see, around extra, let me see. Okay, bold works for me. Click on OK. Okay, so then you drag and position it in here, Ctrl T to scale this down and make sure it is well aligned. I can choose to scale up this rectangle a little bit up and we are good to go. Okay, so make sure this is well positioned into the shape, that is in terms of this. So you can then go ahead to group the three layers, this and this, group them together, Ctrl G. Then whenever you want to scale, you can scale everything together, that is in terms of this. Okay, please take note of that. You can call this headline. Okay, I'm still trying to keep my layer panel as neat and organized as possible. Okay, that is in terms of that. The next thing we have to do is to place in the various services the brand is offering. Okay, that is in terms of that. So for this, I would like to change the style of font here. Check first, change the style to regular, works. Okay, increase the spacing between each line of text, that also works. Then the next thing we'll want to do is to change the fill color to white for contrast purpose. The next thing again, pick this shape to pick the rectangle and create a tiny rectangle of this size, like this, as very tiny as this, and maintain the fill color. So I can come over here, position one over here. Okay, I can make a duplicate, holding Alt left click, drag down, hold Alt left click, drag down, hold Alt left click, drag down. Okay, so I've created 3. So I can select the 4 rectangles created, pick my move tool, click on this, okay, to make sure that they are equally spaced out. Okay, that is in terms of that. Then I can choose to reposition them. That is in terms of that. The next thing I would like to do as well is to come over here to my rectangle tool. I pick another tool here called the line tool. Now, while picking the line tool, I expect you to pick a layer from your layer panel which is not a shape layer. That's why I'm selecting this. I'll come over here, left click and drag, holding shift, left click and drag, holding shift horizontally like this to create something of this dimension. Change your stroke to white and increase the size of your stroke to 1 pixels. Take note of that. Okay, so you can then choose to, Ctrl Z. You can then choose to find the line, Ctrl T, drag and position around here. This works. Ctrl J, make a duplicate, take this down. Ctrl J again, make a duplicate, take this down. Ctrl J once more, make a duplicate, take this down. Ctrl J, make a duplicate, take this down. So after I'm done creating these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines, I'll select the whole lines layer, select the first one, hold shift, apply the same technique we used for this. Okay, select the 5 layers, select your move and click on this to balance the spacing between each. That is in terms of that. Simple and as ABCD. So I'll select this layer from the top here, holding shift all the way to this, and I'll group them and I'll call them services. So it's just like me keeping my layers as neat as possible. So it is now expected of me to left click and drag and make sure they are aligned with what we have already started with. Make sure we're trying to create organization here. That is in terms of that. Okay, so moving on, next I'll have to come over here and pick another tool called the rectangle tool. I'll create a rectangle of this dimension like this. Okay, Ctrl T, scale this down a little, holding shift. Okay, so here I would like to also apply the same thing here. I don't want to add the curve around everywhere, I just need to add it on one side. So I'll come over here, scale. You see what happens? It basically allows me to do what? Scale one end at a time, because this is not selected. So this is 96, this can be set on what? 96 as well. So change the fill color, I can just double click in here, change it to white. Okay, check. Now you notice this is directly above the stamp. It shouldn't be, so I'll drag this beneath the stamp. Okay, and you see what happens? So Control Enter, Control D to what? To deselect. So come back here, pick your move tool, select the subject, and you can choose to do what? Readjust its scale in terms of size, and we are good to go. That is in terms of this. So the next thing I would like to do here, let me see, is to move my stamp a little. I'd like to move it around somewhere here like this. Okay, now moving on, I have to place in the informations they can actually use in terms of reaching out to the client. Okay, this is overlapping like this. Change the font. This time around I'm changing the font from Poppins to Nexa. This is another font, so I can choose to select this, for example, and select the flux emboss. Change the fill to black. I can use the value of black like this. This basically works. Now it is now time for me to play with what? Contrast. So I'll make emphasis on this by selecting only the full number, and then what? Increasing the width, and what? Increasing the size of what? The text. Okay, so I can do that like this. Okay, then increase the spacing between the text like this as well. Okay, I think 5 points works. Okay, so we'll click on this like this, and we are good to go. So I can then reposition this way, and we are good to go. Come back here, you can then narrow down the line spacing. If it's too much, you can adjust it a little bit to like -80. I think this works perfectly well. Okay, or if I want, I can still come back here to select this and scale this a little bit bigger. Okay, I think 4 works. Okay, this works as well. It all depends on the ideas you have on your head, okay, or in your head rather. So that is in terms of that. So I can move forward to also enabling this as well. Ctrl T, bring this down here and make sure it is what? It is well aligned as well. And do what? Change the fill to this, okay, to black rather, to the similar value of black. Okay, and this is okay. Change this to Nexa as well, trying to change the style. For this, I'll create contrast as well by creating more emphasis on this. Okay, set this on emboss, set this as well on emboss. I think this works. So the difference between them is in what? Is in terms of scale. Okay, so I can choose to scale down this website a little to similar dimension as this. Okay, that is in terms of that. So you can choose to bring this up a little, and you can go back to your phone numbers and adjust them as well if they are too big. Okay, so there are room for what? Changes at every point in time. So afterwards, I can select this and group them. Okay, and I'll call this contacts. That's for that. So the next thing I have to do is to place in the percentage the brand is actually offering. I think they say are giving out about, sorry, I'll click over here and type in the percent 10 shift 5, 10% for first set of orders. So position this around here, check, change the fill color to a value of black like this. Okay, let me see which value works. Okay, I think this works. Then the next we change the font to Nexa as well. We're trying to maintain usage, so scale this. Okay, you can also enable this furthermore. So you can still come back here to your property and reduce the spacing between each of this. This works. Ctrl T, scale down, and do what? scale it down again and make sure it is positioned here. So you can then make a duplicate, Ctrl Z. For this, I'm not making any duplicate. This should be outside this group, so I'll close this group. So over here, I'll enable this layer and this layer respectively. Select both layers, enable them. Okay, enable them and bring them here. And I would like to first start with the colors. I would like to use a value of the same black we are using here to create contrast. Now, starting with this to be in particular, I would like to make this to be more of let me see, semi bold would basically work. Let me see, making this lighter. While for this, I can choose to make this black sharp. This is actually looking good so far. So you can select both layers, scale them down, make sure they have similar weight. So I'll select this free delivery and do what? Make sure it is well positioned and scale this up properly. Okay, so it is now left for me to see how I can basically just align everything into this particular shape. Okay, so that is in terms of that. Okay, so I think we're almost done. What else? I'll need to group this. I'll group this. That is the text. I'll call this 10%. Okay, I'll call this 10%, and it should be inside the stamp. I'll drag it into the stamp group. Okay, so that it belongs to one family. I can create contrast from this particular stamp. Double click on the group. The layer style comes up. Head over to drop down shadows. Let me see the effect. Okay, I think this is looking nice. Set this as follows. Multiply. The color is set on black, full black to be precise. This amount of percentage. Set this as follows and click on OK. You have this looking like this. The next thing I'll have to do is to place in the handle for the brand. So left click over here at fresh spin. So hit Ctrl T, scale this out and do what? Position it around here. Okay, so we can then choose to make modification to the colors. So white. Okay, change the scale to, let me see, I think regular works. Regular is too light, so let me see, semi bold works. Okay, that's in terms of that. Then you can choose to position it wherever I want to position it. Okay, so that is in terms of that. Let me come back to this contact. I'm still not satisfied with the scale. Okay, pick the text to make modification to this. Come back to your character panel. I can choose to set this on 3.5. 3.5 to be precise works. Okay, I think this is looking much better. So I think we are almost done in terms of the whole process. So I think this is good to go so far, and if you want to play more further, you can try playing with color lookups and see what value of colors helps your project more. I think this also looks well. Okay, let me bring this way. This also looks well. You can play across various preview here and see which works or which helps your design to give it life. So ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of this. If you do find this tutorial helpful, do well to give this video a like, smash the like button so that the YouTube algorithm can actually notice that this actually delivered value. Okay, do well to smash the like button, and if you have been watching all this while, do well to smash the subscribe button if you have not done that, and turn on the post notification bell to get post notification whenever I upload new content. And to my returning subscribers, thank you guys for always watching. I really appreciate you all. If you have any questions, do well to leave them in the comment section. Please drop a comment in the comment section. Okay, so as usual, I'll see you in the next.